a mere few months from that date, there then would come school holidays. The friend of Jabu, Spiwe, I gave him the name Spiwe, right? It was Spiwe, my boyfriend, and I would also break up because Spiwe was irresponsible with my heart and my life, right? We would then also move out of that house the following year, and the two of us break up. And then again, because my cousin and I used to always hook up at each other's houses depending on where you're going each. Got the holiday. The June holidays. The June holidays of I guess it March, one of them holidays, school holidays of the following year, one of them, a few like months after my boyfriend and I broke up. This is now grade 11, right? In grade 11, a few months down the line, do the same thing that we keep on doing. But I remember in the beginning stages, me visiting my cousin would involve Zula nje wherever. Naturina, where she was staying. Zula nje kotla ultimately. Zula makota, go home, whatnot. This particular school holidays, I know Shem. I know that was pretty much the end of the end. I was already dropping the ball on my studies. I was already not doing as well as I was supposed to be doing. I was already. This time around in Defela, I completely threw my future away. If I was not naturally intelligent, I think I might have actually flunked, right? Like, cause guys, like, I would skim past my textbooks in Defela to study because Nikili busy na weekend to go fela go jazz festival. I mean, I remember one time being so worried about a biology test on Monday. Go partying. Or go Togoza Park or something. And I'm like worried that I'm gonna fail biology. And then getting home, we'll see you. And opening a textbook and skimming through it. And then going in to write the exam the next day, the test. And it was just so irresponsible. Listen, I was supposed to study all weekend. I was supposed to study from Friday. I was supposed to be home. But I was making out. I was fornicating. What the heck? Like, I literally threw my future away. But you see, I could not be introduced into life, yeah, my cousin, unless I had sex. While I was still a virgin, it was too taboo. It was too dirty. It was too but once I had sex, she was willing to she started saying Assam, but she started carrying me like I was a coat. Every time you go out, you grab it. Yeah, she started doing that because I was now sexually active. So kupanje fela tlogelang sex ne before marriage. Tlogelang ujola nje at all. Bandla we I keep saying yekelane ukujola. But anyway, hasi qhubeke nelana. I'm a good quani. I'm a good queenie. I'm a godco. Hasi hambeni pumelelani pumbili. Harry twirling pillar. Yeah, batwing guys. Utwelang bongwana. Kupalema meleng bo sister. Utwelang. A patter for afro. And here it is, like somewhere in grade 11, got his school holiday. I check out my cousin in the hood. And at this stage, we're staying now in Alberton, right? Like, I can really know magic. My mom and I. Now, at this stage, my sister is already like living overseas, right? Like a loss has happened. Hey, I go vagashala my cousin during one school holidays, y'all. And during these school holidays, I'd broken up with my boyfriend, and it wasn't even that long. Like weeks, maybe like 2 months since we'd broken up. I'm still very much in love with him. If anything, deep down inside, I kind of hope we're gonna get back together. I go to Schlewedo, study holidays in. My life ended entirely. That was the end of the end, Shem. That was the end of the end. These holidays, I can't this time, again, I told you about the boyfriend who dumped her because we went to Ndliatengi. And she wasn't there. I also told you about how it is that there was this girl from Waverly that my cousin used to hang out with since grade 8 or 9. And this chick, my cousin met her, Kokandi Square. She met her in these places where school kids meet, even though they went to different high schools. And she was busy all over the show. And remember, when we were on the camera, about this chick. She used to kotkala me. And did I give her a name? Lorraine. I said her name was Lorraine. She was like, yeah, no, hey, I met these chicks from Waverly. One of them is Lorraine. Hey, Banyana Bako Waverly girls, they are forward. They sleep around, but busy. They're like village bicycles. They're shaking heads, blah, blah. My cousin Archie be telling me stories about chicks from Waverly. And then she tells me about one in particular that she got somewhat tight with. And it was through this chick from Waverly that she was introduced. So in and of herself, she was brought into this fast life by this chick from Waverly. She was introduced to the guy that she was dating that drove a car. Remember him? In grade 8 or grade 9. By the chick in grade 10, grade 11 from Waverly Girls High. The chick from Waverly Girls High got my cousin dating dudes with cars. And Khalanza Papa, the Waverly girl. And I introduced her, my cousin, to the party, the club. She stopped staying home for the weekend. She started giving her dad pain. Remember I said all children are barbaric, but some children are more barbaric than others. She started becoming super barbaric against her parents. She became a real problem, like a real problem. My cousin became forward and as soon as high school started. And it was because it was not her friends from high school that influenced us this negatively. It was older girls that she was friends with from other schools. My cousin always looked older than her years. She also, she was also very popular and she made friends very easily. So this Gandhi Square meetup point, girls was Waverly and they got along like a house on fire. And then they exchanged notes, and whatnot. And my cousin was very busy got these situations, and so Megan got because she and I were very tight. And she then got like me, like my cousin with this chick from Waverly. It became a best friend at some point, way before I met her, way before I met this chick, right? And Labantu Laba, my high school, Sir John Adamson, even I did not hang out with the guys when I was in grade 8. They were in matric. They were in grade 11. They were in grade 10. They were in my sister's grade. My sister was 3 grades above me, even though she was 2 years older, because she was 1 year ahead of her peers. My sister, my cousin used to hang out with guys that my sister was in the same grade with. Like, she was friends with these guys, and these guys were all like, listen, a 3-year 8, like when you are 14, a 17-year-old guy, like you should not be hanging out with any of that. You shouldn't be hanging out with any of that. And there was this guy in my high school that became a Guaido star. If anything, 2 of them became Guaido stars, but this one was in my sister's grade, right? Or yeah, this one was in my sister's grade, more or less. And yeah, my cousin was fratting with it. She was dating him, or whatever. This guy was like the son of a soccer star in the country, so they were quite wealthy, and they were quite wealthy, and my cousin described how it is that the house, this guy, when you come in, there's like a lion at the entrance hall or whatever, and she was fascinated by this like taxidermy lion at the entrance hall. She was basically describing how rich this guy is, right? Type setup thing. And she liked him for those reasons. I don't know where she met this guy from my high school. I literally have no idea. But the chick from Waverly, we used to hang out with my cousin with these guys from my high school. Like, listen, we're in the south of Johannesburg. They go to schools there elsewhere, and yet they somehow managed to meet. I did not know this whole Johannesburg like that when I was on the come up. And my cousin had an affair, if you will, a relationship. She used to date this guy that became deputy head even in my high school when he was in matric. In the season he was like in grade, I don't know, 11. And listen, at the same time, my cousin was all over the streets when she was with the dude with the car that dropped her off. During the same time when she was with him, she was messing as well with the guy whose dad was a soccer star in the country. Yeah, type of steps with it. Anyway, whatever. Listen, she was all over these streets, and then the only relationship that I had with that guy was one where he was just this older guy in the school, and he was very strict. He became deputy head, and he was very strict, and he treated me like a child, but he was absolutely there entirely like a bear at the farewell party in grade 8, in my grade 8, but my sister's grade 11. When my sister was going to Italy, he was there partying. And so I recognized him from Goskolongo, but he was big. He was just so much bigger. And again, at my sister's farewell party, where all these kids were from my school and from all of us, the south of Joburg, I slept at like 8, at like 9, 10 at night, while my cousin was all over busy fretting, like chatting in Upper Storm with all the boys all over the streets. I was such a child. Like, you know, when this party's happening, and then the kids like fall asleep. Like, yeah, the kids then fall asleep while everybody's still dancing. That's how it was with me. And all my girls from my high school in grade 8 that I invited to that party were picked up by their parents by like 10 p.m. 7. And my cousin was still jiving with all these guys who high school. Una papa. What I'm getting at is that my cousin mega papa. Ure. And I think maybe potentially. And I think that maybe potentially that's where she met these guys from my high school. Yeah. I think that's where they met. And then they started hanging out like a whole chunk. And she then ended up having a relationship with the guy from my high school. But it didn't last very long. Because that guy was just a player, like Nali busy all over the streets. Mara, right? Like while she was, I think that's what actually caused the breakup between her and the guy with the car. I think he was like, listen, you're about these streets, wang bora. With that other guy from Sir John. And then they broke up. So, no muntu mega hectic. Mara, around the same time, when my cousin was busy with the dude from my high school, around the same time when my cousin was busy with the dude from, the chick from Waverly introduced my cousin. She introduced my cousin to the guy with the car, and then he became her boyfriend. And then later on, they all jive out together with the dude from my high school. These things were all these stories that she was telling me, and I was receiving them as this little child that was listening to the stories of this person with this life, even though we're the exact same age. Do you understand? Yeah, okay, that's what was going on. And my cousin could not bring me into that inner circle, and I'm grateful that she did not bring me into it that early. But as soon as I fornicated, that fateful day when I went to Leondale, as soon as I met the guy with whom I would break my virginity earlier than I would have appreciated, that's when she started inviting me everywhere, taking me everywhere she went, like taking a coat every time you leave the house. And it was in taking me everywhere that I then, because I had idolized her and made out of her my god, that's when I started doing everything that she basically kind of recommended. Everything, right? So yeah, but she met this chick from Waverly, and this chick, my cousin would tell me stories on some, this chick, she meets guys, and the same night that she meets them, she sleeps with them. She is all over these streets. Everybody calls her a whatever. She had a reputation when we were on the come up. Onali busy. And my cousin that she's a moi fanfare, an MVV. A moi fanfare is a chick that's pretty only from far. Like, she had a beautiful body, whatnot, but when she came up close, nail scorbo. Apparently that was her reputation, type establishment thing. So my cousin would tell me stories about this chick that I did not know. I just only heard about her. And the first time that I would meet her was in grade 11. But my cousin had been with her all this time. She had been with her since grade 8, 9, 10. I would only meet this chick because my cousin moved to Soweto, and this chick lived in Moletsane. This chick, Lorraine, lived in Moletsane, and because she was now in close proximity, my cousin rekindled a relationship with her. After seasonally kind of, parting ways, they reignited their relationship, having known each other. And by the time the relationship was rekindled, she was out of high school. Because remember, she was 2 years older than us. We're in grade 11, so she was in first year, Technicon. She was in first year higher learning institution while we were in grade 11. I go visit my cousin one fateful holidays, go Sokotladi, and instead of zularing again to go and eat amakota, this time around we went to the house of some dude. And when we got to this house, again, I was just so incredibly impressionable and insane. It's 6:19 in the morning. I just want to get the story out the way now, because I'm starting to feel kind of tired. We go to the house of some dude that's also in the hood, in the neighborhood, Kotladi, in the like Kumletsani, like really not far, like a walking distance from where my grandmother's house was at, my uncle's now house was at. We go there, and I repeat, initially during the day, that's like proper my life. I'm being followed around by something. Do you understand? We get there, and initially when we get there, there was this one dude, my cousin, her friend, which I met for, was it the first time? Did I meet this chick for the first time? Yeah, those holidays. I get her all this time. My cousin was with her. I'm trying to think, when did I meet this chick? Oh yes, no, absolutely. This was the first time that I ever got to put a face on the chick that my cousin was talking about all this time from like the beginning of high school. It was my first time actually meeting her. And I met her, the first time I met this chick, my cousin and I, did she come to Kontlu? And then we walked to, my cousin and I walked to this one house not far away, and we found this chick Aduzi dragging on a cigarette, sitting on a crate. This chick is in first year, and institutions, higher learning institutions, nobody is closed. We are closed, however, in high school. So it makes sense that we were there, but it didn't make sense that she was there because she was supposed to be at lectures. She was supposed to be at school. And she kept on squandering her parents' money, her mother's money, because she kept failing at the end of that year over 80. And her mother was upset the next year, wa register 40. Wa fail, and the mother was still upset. It's really more that chick since any more than It was through that chick's mom, if anything, that I came to find out finally that there is a solution to period pains, and they're called painkillers. Because her mom was the first one to ever administer medication to me feeling very sick over my period pains. One day when she saw that I was sick, and she gave me painkillers. So frankly, I have her mother to thank for healing my period pains one day. Anyway, whatever. So this chick, in a conversation, and she's hanging out with this one guy got this particular house, and it was her, this dude, and a couple of other random people that are like, whatever, I can't really remember them, ignorable. And then my cousin and I rock up, and we greet, and as soon as we walk in, hi Giwa, whatnot, I then get introduced. Hi, this is my cousin Garabo, this is Lorraine. Hi Lorraine, I'm Garabo. Nice to meet you. Heard so much about you. And then I meet the guys and whatnot. This time it was not like a whole bunch of them like go Leondale. It was just like maybe 2 or 3. And the Nele go Habo, one of these guys. And they were sitting outside drinking what they call shandy, which was a mix of Hansa and Sprite. Cheap booze from the Kasi. And we get there and I don't I drank, like I did, like I drank the alcohol, all right. I tasted it, but not enough to get drunk or whatever. I got not even tipsy, like just maybe 1 or 2 sips out of this weird drink, and then introduced that particular day. I was introduced, and on that day, that was the first time I found out that my cousin smokes. So I don't know when my cousin started smoking, but I found out that day that she smokes, because when she got to that house, she went to her friend Lorraine and was like, "Scafe, scaped in causa." What was I doing hanging out with those people? She was like, "Scafe." I was like, "Whoa, my cousin smokes?" I didn't know that. Like, I probably had no clue that my cousin smoked cigarettes. I had no idea that my cousin smoked. But she was now introducing me to her world. My cousin was now introducing me to her world on some what you didn't know about me, Garabo. You're about to find out. Now you're gonna learn. Anyway, whatever. She then is like, Scafe, her friend then gives her the cigarette that she's dragging on. And then I was like, whoa, my cousin smokes. Okay, cool. Yeah, that same day, I'm quiet, I'm shy. Then I'm a pretty girl. And I'm the new girl, and guys will always be all up in the new girl's ecosystem. So the guy whose house it was, the guy who lived then is like to my cousin, who's your friend? Who's your friend? And then no peer pressure. I didn't like this guy. I didn't have feelings for him. I didn't have a crush. Nothing. I then am like, my cousin is then like, this is my cousin, Garao. And then my cousin tells me, and let's say his name was Leshohonolo. My cousin is then like, Leshohonolo likes you. I'm single now. I get it. My ex and I are broken up. And Leshohonolo is like, who's your cousin? And then my cousin is like, my cousin, blah, blah, blah. And then my cousin tells me, Leshohonolo likes you. And then I was like, oh, okay. Okay, whatever. That first day, my cousin is like, Leshohonolo likes you. I'm like, okay, whatever, right? But then that day, as the day progressed, like maybe evening, like maybe about 5:30, 6. I knew now we're in grade 11. The guys now we're hanging out with are becoming increasingly older. My ex-boyfriend was 2 years younger than me. Or not younger, older. He was 18. Now these guys that work, some of them go to college, university, whatnot. A whole bunch of them come back from tertiary. Whole bunch of them come back from work, those who were not in tertiary, those who work 9 to 5 jobs. And later on, and they just like flood like back in and that's when I started to like panic, like on something, like again, just like what happened in Leondale. All these boys in the room, and this time they're a little bit older, right? And I'm like, whoa, babanga, there's so many of them, and I'm so scared, I'm so intimidated, and bakena mo papa, babua a lot, batuba. Unlike the ones that I used to have, the ones who go. So basically, even the hangout crowd that I was with just got darker and darker, right? My ex-boyfriend and his friends, in Leondale, we didn't drink alcohol, and we also did not smoke. In Leondale, there was no alcohol, and there was never any cigarettes, like no smoking and no drinking. When we were out here hanging out, as a bunch of teenagers in high school, and just had, it was like clean fun. It was literally clean fun, and of course, would do with making out and whatnot, but there was never any alcohol, and certainly never any cigarettes, and of course, certainly never any weed. Zol. Listen, my ex-boyfriend did not drink, I did not drink. If he drank, then no, I never saw him do it. And then next thing, these guys were not here, never into hard partying, and lots and lots of zol. There was lots and lots of zol all up in that particular new space. Yo, guys, I meet these guys. First and foremost, Hansa, because it's a makeshift. Everybody's broke, everybody's poor, they've got only so much money, so they can't buy proper expensive alcohol, so they are mixing Hansa, Lisprite for the ladies, and then for the guys, Hansa my grandmother used to sell alcohol, and it was very lackluster. Hansa with that brown bottle. For crying out loud, my boyfriend that I dated in that crew of guys, Onanwa Hansa. Oh my goodness, no. Hansa, like Hansa. Oh God, have mercy. What in the world am I doing? So over there, I am super innocent in comparison to everybody else. Even though I wasn't a virgin anymore. I was certainly not into drinking, and I was also certainly not into smoking, and like parties as well. Like I was not like with the first crowd. Party, my ex-boyfriend. I never went clubbing, partying with him. Every time we hooked up, it was either he came to visit me, or I would go to visit him, in Leondale. I never went out on a night of partying. Listen, there was no parties, there was no cigarettes, there was no alcohol, nothing. So basically, I downgraded. It was bad enough I was having sex. Now, I was about to be in the nightlife. That whole debauched scene. It just went bad, from bad to worse. The devil megang funa. He was trying to devour me whole. He was trying to grabbing sand. Here it is that then I am go set up in it's a lot darker, and the guys lava ba oldanyana, you know. My cousin and I are the youngest. We're in high school. Everybody is out of school at this point. This chick too is also out of school. Yeah. We then oh y'all, it was just so bad. My goodness, whoa. That first day going all these guys, and one of the guys Vafitiling was the guy that would then become my boyfriend. He was short, much shorter than me, but he asked like it. He was so cute. He was so cute. I was like skinny and tall, and this guy was just short, so I was just dating a guy that was shorter than me, but it was clear that he was older. Even though Megam Fichani, like hectically, he was much shorter than me. I mean, how did he feel being with such a tall girl? Anyway. He was much shorter than me. And yeah, after him, I was like, I'm not dating a short guy ever again. Anyway, even the guy that I was with, Leondale, he was slightly shorter than me, and that he was thicker, so he kind of made up for it in other ways. This one, the fella was just a short guy, a small guy. He was very small in stature. Anyway, whatever, cool. Yeah, he rocks up that day, and he sits next to me. Everybody is sitting on the crates of beer. Last time I saw people sitting on crates of beer, my grandmother used to sell alcohol before she passed away, and every so often, because these guys would grab the crates of bojwala or the bench, and just drink like because they low-key kind of converted it into ishe bean where they could sit there and drink, and my grandmother let them do that. Yeah, okay. That scene of those old geriatric men the pusa face drinking outside of my grandmother's house was actually being repeated, but this time by very young, beautiful men. And the girls that are hanging with them, creating all the wooden bench. No. Dude, not even pouring it into a glass. Like the way that those men then were always outside my grandmother's house making it a sport though with drinking. It was like guys that I was hanging with. my cousin, my family and I, these men, as my dawan fella that were drinking outside of my grandmother's house. And now the guys that we were hanging out with, just like those old men. Basically, my grandfather and my dad were in these men, but it was already the makings of my grandfather and the makings of my dad. It didn't show because they were so young. They were 20, 21. The youngest one among them was 19 years old. And the oldest was like maybe 22 or 23. They were so young that it didn't show that they were literally our dads in the making. When a beautiful young guy, you will think it's fashionable. You will think it's trendy because he's making it look good. Yeah, wait for him to turn 45. Since then it's gonna look really ugly, isn't it? Well, I never got to see them be 45. They are today that age, but proper. They were my dad. That was the devil stealthily already starting to creep in my male relatives. The men that wreaked havoc in the women in my family's life. And the irresponsible decisions of the women in my family to also accommodate them. Herein lies those decisions being made. Proper. It was like the devil was just formulating a future. He was building a legacy. He wasn't building it. He was proliferating it. He was lingering a legacy. And I found myself in the space, and he was, you could just hear the song in the background. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. Proper. This is how the generational curses of these kids are gonna be lingered. These guys are the perfect ones. They are the perfect ones to proliferate the legacy of their dads. I'm gonna stay in this bloodline. That was the devil. I could just hear him whispering it. Fine. The guy that would later become my boyfriend, next to me. And then he's like, hi, what's your name, whatever, karabo, etc. I'm taller than him. He doesn't care. So, like, whatever. He then chats with me. By the end of that particular day, my cousin told me that, again, two guys, there it is again, like, listen, just repetition, like, what in the world? It's just so eerie when I recall these stories. Two guys are interested in me again. The first guy that I meet is the one on Adulada, and later on my cousin was like, hey, Kimang, this one likes you. And then let's say my ex's name was Tabang, and then she was like, oh, Tabang also thinks you're pretty, but I liked Tabang, right? However, the following day, okay, fine, they came later on, and then they hung out together. We all hung out until maybe the sun was starting to entirely set. And since we couldn't stay with Jaga thing, everybody then left, right? The next day we hung out again for that same yard. And having hung out, the next day we did not hang out. The next day we did not hang out in that same yard. Sorry. The next day, my cousin was dating one of the guys. Again, she moved on relatively quickly from that ex-guy, because she was not home for a minute. My cousin was busy, she was busy. There was like a dude that was much older than all of them. He was like 27, and so he was kind of divorced from the whole crowd, right? And remember, my cousin is 17, so proper 10 years. The 27-year-old guy was, however, very cute. And he was just, however, a Sibono that was not doing anything with his life. And she was sleeping with him. He was very cute. She was sleeping with him. But she was also sleeping with another guy in that crew of friends. And this guy used to come to check on my cousin. And so he came to come and check on my cousin. And my uncle was at work. And because the guy that would become my boyfriend liked me, when the guy went to go check, when my cousin's boyfriend came to check her, he came with on some I'm coming a cousin, a guy so he came. So he came and and this guy was busy talking to me, asking me questions, and he was like, you're quite tall, hey? You're quite tall. And I'm just looking at this guy on some, it's my body. He was short, type setup thing, but he kept on like chatting me up. And I thought he was cute. I really did. I liked him. But I mean, whatever. Type setup thing. And then the day after that, we then went back to go and hang with these guys, go habo that jarata. And you see, impression of like, how about any kind of sense. I experimented with a cigarette. I smoked. The third day, I smoked nebatubadi quarterly cigarettes, and I tested it. And initially and then they laughed at me or something. You actually have to inhale. And then I inhaled and I started to choke. But then I carried on. Not only did I start to choke, but I felt so dizzy. I hated the way that I felt. I hated the feeling of cigarettes. Mara, I carried on, kapusha until I stopped choking. So essentially, those holidays when I was 17 years old, I started to smoke. So not only did I start to smoke from the third day, on that same third day, I get that there was one guy that had a crush on me. I called him Lehlohonolo. Yeah, Lehlohonolo. It was Ko Habona. He liked me. He had a crush on me. So because he had a crush on me and the other guy was here to actually shoot his shot, because I felt like I needed to be with someone, have a boyfriend, what in the world? I allowed myself to make out with Lehlohonolo. And on the day when I was making out with Lehlohonolo, I get Ko Habo Lehlohonolo, right? So we made out in his bedroom. Did not fornicate. I wouldn't. I only ever had sex with one guy and I was still kind of hung up on him type establishment thing. So I was not about to just go out here and start like sleeping around. No, I was not going to do that. So while this guy wanted to get all hectic with me, I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, listen, I'm only ever going to make out with you. Nothing else. I'm just going to kiss you a whole bunch and that's it. We come out of his bedroom after making out a whole bunch, and then my ex-boyfriend was in the lounge, and my ex-boyfriend, Mamela, this one was especially close to home. This guy was cousin. Yeah, my ex. He was my ex's cousin, or like, so they were familiarly linked somehow. They were familiarly linked to a certain extent. Yeah, and so my ex-boyfriend came to see his cousin and whatnot. And I was in the bedroom making out with him, and then I got out of that bedroom and I greeted everybody, and it was like, hi, nobody was mean. This guy never shot his shot, so he didn't feel any kind of raw about Tabayore. I was making out with his cousin. But that whole, I started smoking cigarettes, right? And I was even drinking alcohol. Oh yeah, I not only experimented with cigarettes and I was smoking cigarettes, I also smoked weed for the first time in my life. They were smoking weed, they were smoking cigarettes, they were drinking alcohol, all these things that I frankly was not even all that used to. At that stage, I had already experimented with alcohol because on my 17th birthday, I drank alcohol. Was it my 17th or my 18th? No, 17th. I drank alcohol, right, as like a way to break into my 17th year, and I was with my cousin, and I got so crazy drunk and I vomited. It was at Eastgate Mall. Like, how in the world? And what happened? Who picked us up? I think my mom. Like, get that way so I'm married to it. Why didn't my mom rebuke me? Like, listen, I don't understand. Anyway, whatever. That was my 17th birthday. I got drunk. And after that, like, it was literally like all systems. My cousin was just the worst influence in my life. So at this particular place, right, during these fateful school holidays, I not only smoked, remember I told you I was like an academic at school, but I was already starting to dwindle. Yeah. I not only smoked cigarettes, but I experimented with marijuana. Thank God, however, with marijuana, I hated it. People got the lachis, they got the munchies, they were basically very happy high inside marijuana, and I felt really depressed. Hey guys, the Lord always had my back. I felt such a deep sense of foreboding. It's like, with that, God was like, no, my watch over my dead body. You will endure these things and you will snap out of them eventually, because you will realize what a nasty influence a certain individual is in your life, and you will stop just following after her because she will have evidenced to have been destructive in your life by a certain point. However, I'm not going to let you become a junkie. Like, listen, I'm not going to let you become a little God refuse. So with alcohol, not with alcohol, sorry, but with cigarettes, not cigarettes, sorry, but with weed, while everybody else was able to be happy, I became actually very excruciatingly clinically depressed inside a high. And I was a math student in school, so I remember feeling, I had in biology, right, we had studied drugs and recreational drug use, and I remember one of the dangers of marijuana was that it messes with your brain cells and can actually diminish your thinking capacity. And I was smart, and I remembered what was written in biology about marijuana, and I was like, I don't want this thing to kill my brain cells. Like, I don't want to lose my ability to do math. So I remember one time being super high and then trying to do calculations in my mind in a high to see if I can still do them, because I was scared that I was going to lose my brain. Long story short, my conscience was alert, awake, alive. That which was evidently wrong, I was doing it knowing it's wrong. So much so that I was even scared that it's going to take away my brain, that inside a high, I remember what was written in biology about the dangers of marijuana. And I also knew that I didn't want to lose my mind. I knew that I did not want to lose my intelligence, because it was a gift. And so therefore I did calculations trying to figure out if I still had it. In the middle of a high. Out here literally doing algebra in my brain. In the middle of a high. And it was at that stage that I realized that, listen, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do weed. Because I don't want to lose my brain cells. And I also don't want it because it makes me very depressed. And it makes me nervous that I'm going to lose my whole future over it. So thank God I only smoked marijuana like 2 times. And the second time it was just 2 times too many. It was just too hectic. It was too much. And I stopped. Like, yeah, it never made me happy. And the planted that thing in the some joint in the kasi, some drug dealer, some local dealer. Just the fact that I knew dealers or like houses where they sell weed, it was so problematic to me. Listen, my conscience was just so, it was speaking so many volumes. And yet I was just running with the grain, running with the grain. I ended up only, like, well, what is this, smoking cigarettes, but I dropped the marijuana. And then when it comes to alcohol, I stopped, like, I didn't like shandy, like just Hansa. I didn't like the fact that they made me drink Hansa. So we used to drink. That's when I basically developed a liking towards ciders, and Hunter's Dry was the alcohol that we would drink as girls. So Nekuna Hunter's Dry and I was smoking cigarettes. I mean, listen, imagine Karabo Kiswere Hunter's Dry Kamoki cigarette. Imagine me. Like, can you even fathom that? Can you picture it? And the thing that made me very uncomfortable with cigarette smoking as well was that I always thought that cigarettes looked really bad on older black women. And I did not want to be an older black woman smoking. That was always a thing. Plus, I never ever was made comfortable with cigarette smoking. Plus, the black lips right next to the yellow teeth. I did not want my teeth going yellow. And I noticed that my lips were changing color. They were getting black. I even went to a dermatologist and was like, what can I do to revert my lips back? And my dermatologist was like, you're going to have to stop smoking. Then only will Bepanthen work. Within a few months of quitting smoking, my lip color was restored. And I was like, this thing is naxi. And again, having read a whole chunk of articles on cigarettes, because I was always just well-researched and I was always such an academic. Like, you know, it ages you quickly. It messes with your pigment on your skin. It makes your fingers yellow. Of course, the whole thing with cancer. And then there was the issue with the fact that once you have smoked cigarettes, the what do you call this? Your lungs never ever truly 100% recover. Like a person that used to smoke cigarettes, you will always be able to see it in an X-ray that they used to smoke. The lungs of a person that smoked cigarettes, even when they have quit for 20 years, will evidence that they at some point smoked. And I hated the fact that my lungs will forever prove to a coroner once I'm dead that I once used to smoke. Those things used to just bother me so much. I was always such a deep thinker. That's the thing. And yet despite thinking so deeply, idolatry, peer pressure, people, you let yourself just get taken over by a tsunami. Anyway, whatever. I carried on, I smoked. And that boyfriend that I was dating, what did I call him? Tabang. I gave him the name Tabang, right? He even said, even though he wasn't the best of guys, and then he stopped smoking cigarettes because he said, he's like, why? Because cigarettes, you like with Zol, you get high. Alcohol, you get drunk. What does cigarette do? I don't know. So cigarette thing because he quit smoking because it did nothing. And I remember one time he said to me, "When pressure," I was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "Pressure, like you don't want to smoke. It's not your thing, and yet you're smoking." I was like, I went up my game, and he was not wrong. Yes, pressure. I did not like cigarettes, like even in the slightest. They used to make me dizzy all the way up until I quit. I thoroughly don't even know why. I smoked for so many years. I smoked for years, y'all. Like years. And when I finally made a decision to quit smoking, I grabbed that 20 pack Dunhill Lights and I flushed it all down the toilet. I'd taken 2 or 3 cigarettes out of there, smoked them, and I threw the rest away and I never looked back. I didn't need Nicorette. I didn't need anything. And listen, I was just not cut out for it. I quit cold turkey without even trying because I was not even supposed to do it. That was the grace of God, and it happened a few years before I gave my life to the Lord Jesus Christ. Anyway, and then I was left with just alcohol that I also ultimately kicked. So by the time I got born again, I was non-drinking, non-smoking, basically what I was supposed to be all this time. Okay, very well. So I got introduced to all these drugs, all up in that joint, all these like substances in that space, and I ended up making out with a guy that I didn't even like out of peer pressure. And one time we went to parties. This here season of my life was the first time in my life that I ever went to parties. So as I'm partying until I was like 17. And I went there because I was hanging out with my cousin, and one Saturday, we got picked up, had to go anyway, we didn't really wear makeup, right? So I guess the outfit. and then go out there in the wilderness. And for the first time, I saw a whole bunch of young people in Jefela, like Bajaiva, Banwa, and I was really uncomfortable. I never liked the party scene. Listen, all the way up until I got born again, I didn't get it. The only type of vibe that I really enjoyed was Bryce, because it was intimate, close environment with people that I was close with, that I adored. And I was also quite content with like restaurant-y type pubs where you sit down, you eat, and then every so often good music plays. I enjoyed places like those. So I used to like Melville quite a lot. Mara just njefela random standing around and dancing emakazeni kubanda. Hashem, I never liked that. I never liked it. It never gelled. And the only time that I enjoyed those environments was when I was with my boyfriend, because I was in love. I liked the guy. So because of the company, I was cool with it. Otherwise, I didn't like. Listen, I didn't like nightclubs. I didn't understand the point. They were so sweaty. They were so like they were just full of these like licentious children. I guess I was one too. I didn't like nightclubs. I did not, guys. It never gelled. It never made me comfortable. There was just too many people in one place. It was like squished like sardines, and it smelled a lot. Like I did not like partying. Only intimate establishments and places where the music was there, but it was not so loud that you can't hear yourself talking with a person. For me, it was always about relationship. It was about the people. So that's why I liked Norwood a lot, Melville a lot. Like I said, dancey, restauranty places where we could sit down, and we could actually have a conversation with you hearing what's being spoken, without the music being so loud that you can do nothing but dance and just all intoxicated. Live it, I feel like just rub against each other's I hated that. Listen, I hated it. I don't know what I was doing in that scene. Anyway, I was in it, and I was in it for a minute, and my cousin was the one that brought me into that space. So for the first time, I went to parties with these people. And the only time I enjoyed that whole hanging out thing was because I was with my boyfriend. And the first time that we went out, Jaiva and whatnot, that's when the guy, Tabang, the one that would become my boyfriend, the next guy that I felt quite heavily in love with, he was there. And how we started dating was that basically he just kind of made it clear that, listen, I think you're beautiful, blah, 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 wada, wada. And then we started making out. And him I liked. I really did like. And then he asked me, but the other day you came out of the room with, keep in mind that guy, therein lies this chick and that fella that's willing to just move from one friend to another. The other guy's name, she was like, but you went Nolo. I was like, I don't like Nolo. It's nothing. I don't care. There's that cold girl again. Same one that dumped Cabello on his birthday. Was I just saying, I was just making out with him because he liked me. But you're the guy. And that relationship lasted about 1.5 years. It basically ended because I matriculated. And he was intimidated by me going to varsity. Otherwise, whatever. Mara, what needs to be comprehended is that whole place, that whole establishment, that whole scene, entering into that whole space was my cousin, and she was, she was busy Anza Jaiva Lorraine. I'm trying to talk about Lorraine. Mamelang Lorraine. She was always high like a kite, drunk like a skunk. And Lorraine, I got to meet her for the first time in this space, and Lorraine was hectic, right? She was at that stage, she dated one of the guys in that crew, right? But I remember one time, Lorraine, we were chilling, and she was out here pouring out her heart and confessing. And she said, hey, during this season, y'all, after that party, I ended up hanging out with my cousin. There were these other cousins of my cousin that used to live in flats in downtown Johannesburg, and we would go there and just smoke all the day before I would go home. I would smell like cigarettes on my blazer. My friends at school didn't know I smoked. Nobody knew. Papa, I was living this like double life. And then I would go home. My mom once found cigarettes in my blazer, and she told me where to get off. What do I ever told? Why didn't she make me stop hanging with my cousin? I don't know. But like I said, in and of myself, I had conviction, so the responsibility was on my own head. But my mother was irresponsible with my soul as well. But anyway, whatever. Yeah, cool. So one time Lorraine, when we were hanging out, go deflected to downtown Joburg, because Jaiva everywhere now, right? Jaiva everywhere. Get introduced into this party scene, blah blah blah. My relationship is the one that lingers, right? So when they were always just moving from guys to guys, I stayed with that dude for 1.5 years, and I was faithful to him. and we carried on seeing each other even though they moved on to other people. So there came a time when I was just with my boyfriend and they were not there. And that same boyfriend, one New Year's Eve, abandoned me and my cousin to walk back home because we walked to where they were at other chicks. And so was dumper there. Same guy then calls me on the Monday. Because I was so in love, so whipped, I took him back. I didn't even dump him. I just accepted. But I remember being so heartbroken walking back home that my boyfriend and chose rather a side chick yakhona. You know when you draw nonsense. Anyway, whatever. So Lorraine, I remember one time I needed to go some flat horn go in downtown Joburg this time, you know, because I started smoking and I started just hanging out with crazy people after school. All right, she then was there, and I get it, and she was in Technicon in Koffit's Tech, so she would come to these flats. My cousin would come to these flats here, and now she would take a taxi, go find Brandis to go to Tladi, and I would go and take taxis to go to Alberton. We would meet there almost every day. Yeah, every day. Listen, that's why my results, that's why they tanked, took a nosedive academically. I'm surprised as I wasn't entirely ruined by that whole season of my life. Mara, that was the last time that I was taken over by Itsunami Wankutwa. No, second last time. Anyway, whatever. I remember one time Ulore Wakona saying to my cousin and I, you know, I feel so bad about like about my ways. You know, I feel like, you know, meeting a guy and then sleep with him like same night. I feel so bad about being like that. She basically out here spoke out about how it is that she felt really sad about being a whore. And my cousin was like, girl, Mara, you know, right, whatever. That same Lorraine, during the time when I get it, I was still dating my ex. I stayed with him while all of them moved on. And there was also another girl that we used to hang out with that was introduced into this whole equation. She was 4 years older than my cousin and I, 21, while we were 17. So therein lies my cousin just hanging out with these people that are just so much older, right? She was 21, we were 17, Lorraine was 19. I stay with my boyfriend. So the 21-year-old also stayed with her boyfriend, whereas my cousin and Lorraine moved on to other guys littered across these Johannesburg streets. Right. There was one day when Lorraine, my cousin, my boyfriend, and a bunch of other guys booked into Formula One Hotel Yako Southgate and did what? Listen, I don't know. But one thing that is certain is that my cousin came back explaining to me that my boyfriend's nether regions are large. And I don't know why at that stage I didn't storm off, walk away, ditch her, because why did you see my boyfriend's situation? She claims that it was just a game. They were playing spin the bottle. They decided to let me know because I apparently deserved to know. But they went to they all booked into Formula One night when they were partying, and I wasn't there, and they would never have done this with me present because I was always the sweet little girl that, however, was now just fornicating with a random guy. They booked into F1 and played spin the bottle, and she claims that all that happened over there was that my boyfriend showed them his nether regions, and then my cousin and them concluded that his nether regions were large. How in the world? And like, listen, I know that guy was so hectic. My ex, only busy all over the streets. I've already told stories about him. Only hectic. He used to cheat. Mara, it was cheating. Mara, like, and I was content. I've told so many stories about that guy. Right? There was no way that guy would be like booked into a hotel with chicks and have his pants down and him not engage in sexual relations. There was no way. And according to my cousin, the only women that were there were her and Lorraine. So either there was a menage a 7 or my ex-boyfriend took someone and laid with them. My ex slept with either my cousin or my cousins or Lorraine or both. I knew my boyfriend. I'm not busy, this guy. At some point, he even asked me, because you and I are serious, we should stop using protection. I was like, no way. And you're not gonna give me something. And he laughed about it. That guy was, like I said, he once ditched me on New Year's Eve to run off with a side chick. So there's no way that he's gonna book into a hotel with two crazy ladies running loose and not sleep with one or both of them. So my cousin has slept with my ex-boyfriend, either her or that chick or both, in some wild orgy. One night, go Formula One, Yako Southgate. This is who the heck I was hanging out with. Do you see why then I was met with so much hatred from my cousin and even from Lorraine? I was the innocent girl that after guys did this with them, wagged their heads on some boyfriend cousin like proper a self-righteous boyfriend of mine out here counseling me. You must be careful of your cousin. She doesn't have your best interest at heart. Both